You're listening to the Known Legacy Podcast, brought to you by Known Legacy Ministries. For more information, go to knownlegacy.org. Now here's your hosts, Bill and Travis.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing well out there in YouTube land and podcast land.
Have you ever started something and realized you should have started it different?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Good. Anyways, Bill, it's good to have you here, man.
It's good to have you here, man.
Kyle, how you doing?
I'm glad you showed up today.
Good. Thank you.
Fantastic.
It's always good.
You guys are tagging into the Known Legacy Podcast. We're excited that you're here. If you're
glad you're here.
Checking us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever, man, we'd love it if you could give us a review, give us a share, give us a like if that's something that you want to do. And, thank you so much. It's a podcast that we hope to help guys and gals wake up, gear up, and come alive.
Yes.
And who they are in Jesus Christ. And, it's good stuff. We just came off our men's retreat, so we're a little giddy.
Giddy. It's like that Camp High.
Yes.
You come back from Camp High, and it's pretty awesome. Great weekend. But we're glad you're here. Listen, we know that God has something big for you today, so if you're listening and you're doing three other things like doom scrolling while you're listening, can you not put us in that corner at the top? Can you put us at the center? This is really important for you. God's got something big for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Even if it's listening to two or three idiots and going, hey, I can be more spiritual than them. You're like, you can. The hope is there. So we're glad you're here today.
It's not nearly as hard as I thought it would be.
This is way easier.
If these guys can do it,
these guys can do it.
Surely, if Jesus has a story for them, surely my story matters. It's not bad.
Dude, I like your hat. It looks like it's new and crisp.
Thanks. I will tell you, it is a new crisp hat, and it's for the Argyle Eagles.
Okay.
And Argyle is a school that my boys go to. And, my boy. I only got one in high school anymore.
They used to, though, right?
Yeah,
they were all there.
And they played Friday Night Football. And I'll tell you something. That's the question today, actually. Question of the day.
Question of the day. I
want to do that one more time. Okay. Question today.
Question of the day
is we're all transplants, I believe. Kyle, were you? Okay, so you're not native. We heard the legend of Friday Night Lights in Texas.
Yeah.
We've all seen the movie about Midland and Odessa and what those programs were like in the 90s and all the cheating and everything else, right?
Yeah.
What was your experience?
All the cheating and everything. You say through all the cheating and everything.
What was your experience when all of a sudden you woke up to the reality of oh, that's what Friday Night Lights is all about? What was that experience for you?
What was it for you, Kyle?
I got to go first. Okay.
I'll let you go. Age before beauty? I don't know about that. I struggled on that one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little older.
Pearls before swine.
I moved here in 76, 77.
Wow.
And I played football.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to Grapevine and I played 8th grade in Grapevine Middle School. Then I played all since I was 4 or 5, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But when I went to high school and played, that's when it sort of hit me. It was different here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because 2-a-days in Texas heat and Gatorade wasn't invented yet.
Nope. Water from a hose, man.
It was water from a hose. And those 2-a-days were just brutal. And then, when the season starts and you have freshman teams and the stadiums are almost full.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. I would say for me it was living in Allen, Texas, when we first kind of moved to North Texas, that's when it started to make sense to me. And it's primarily because they built a stadium that sat, I think, 12,000.
That's a lot of power.
13,000 people, I think is what
Lots of people.
for a high school football game.
Yeah.
And then not only that, they have season tickets.
Yeah.
And season tickets that and I would think, okay, season tickets, that's for the parents that have kids that are playing in the band or kids and you sit around these people with season ticket holders, you're like, your kids are only in elementary school.
Yeah.
And you're like, why'd you get season tickets? Well, one day my kid's going to be in the band or one day and so I wanted to get season tickets this year so that we could hold them. And it's and you roll into the parking lot on a Friday night and there's tailgating.
18,000.
18,000. And there's tailgating.
I felt like Joe Rogan right there. He just looked it up right there. He was like, we're like, hey, look up how he's like,
that's always good.
Emmett Smith and another, I can't remember the other Cowboy player that were there the opening night.
Emmett was there a while ago when Gabe was in the band.
Yeah.
And we're all looking around for him, fangirling, but obviously we didn't see him. His son played.
A stadium for 18,000.
Yeah.
And they're not. Yeah. That's not the only one. There's multiple
McKinney
has all of those things.
Or $70 million.
And you just sit there, and the other thing that was shocking to me is majority of people will stay for the whole game.
Yeah.
They won't leave at halftime. It just floored me. What about you, Bill?
So my kid goes to Allen, and she's in the color. My daughter's in the color guard.
Yeah,
and
she's guarding that color.
So we do actually have front row season tickets from an amazing family that we know from our church, and we just buy them every year from them. But so that's it. But that wasn't the first thing. So I moved to Midland, Texas, from upstate New York.
Oh,
remember?
Yeah.
And which I'm like, I moved from the Adirondack Mountains, lakes, rivers, streams, to the desert where I literally watched my dog run away for 2 weeks. It was the flattest land in the world.
But you can still see its tail.
Exactly.
In the distance.
He's good. We got him. So get some food. And so, but man, right before we left New York, we're like, let's check this out. So we watched Friday Night Lights because it came out in 2004 or something like that or whatever. And we moved in 2005. So we watched it just to check it out. And man, as we watched it, we're like, what are we getting? This can't be real. It can't be real.
Right.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, so we get there. And that stadium is huge.
Huge.
When we first got there in 2005, there were still stores that closed down.
Yep.
To go to football. And I'm like, this is a high school football. But now, all these years later, I'm like, I love high school football.
Yeah.
It's the best.
It's still pure.
Yeah.
It feels pure. I don't know if it is
pure.
I
know.
It's pure.
There's obviously, there's no corruption anywhere. And so, but you go to this game and the walkover with the band.
Yes.
And how, I have I never would have thought that I'd be a guy that holds a cowbell because I'm the 12th man. That when it's the third down, you're like, ding, 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 and you're like, ah! So I'm losing my voice.
Yeah.
And then Friday night, I was like, that was a really good game.
Well, doesn't Allen also have fireworks?
Yes. Not at the end of this. Maybe in playoffs, I think. But we don't do them every week.
Again, high school football with
bro,
drone
it's crazy.
Shows and
it's crazy.
Fireworks. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Just the screen. So I played high school football for 1 year. So because I fought my parents to play high school football.
Oh, yeah.
And so senior year, I'm playing, and I think the most people that came to one of our games were 60 people.
Yeah.
And there was one little bench that could fill all of them.
Yes.
And most of them stood along the fence.
Oh yeah.
But man, to come here and see that was absolutely incredible.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And so with that intro, I do want to bring on our guest today. His name is Brian McKenna, and he's the antithesis of Friday Night Lights football because he currently lives in Arcadia Township, northern Michigan. It's a beautiful little town of about 300 people, I think. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, small town, northern Michigan. We're straight across from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I actually was in.
What's so big about Green Bay? I have no bitter whatsoever right now about Green Bay.
Says the Dallas Cowboy fan.
Well, I'm actually coming from Illinois, so that's where I moved. So recently into Arcadia, Michigan, about 6 months ago, but came from Illinois. So I am a big Bears fan. I know the timing's a little off, just in coming off this past weekend, so don't want to alienate anybody, but we don't always have a lot to cheer for, but we do this week.
Hey, take it while you can get it, because God knows the Bears need something to cheer for. I feel for you guys.
Mike Ditka or a hurricane? Wait a minute. The name of the hurricane, it's Ditka.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Anyway, sorry.
So McKenna, what was your experience with high school and football in Illinois and the legends that you've heard about Friday Night Lights, if there are any?
Yeah, we do, in fact, have football in Illinois, and actually Friday Night Lights as well. So believe it or not, maybe not as big a scale and the production piece of it, but it is a community event. And so it is big all throughout Chicagoland area, which is where I'm from. And so that's the part I most enjoyed is it's a community event.
Love it.
Nice.
Love it. So I'm excited to have Brian here. We've known I've known Brian for looks
how
like
many years?
35
how
years.
many years?
35, 36.
So just to give you a little insight.
No, we don't need to go there. We don't need to go
Pre-show,
there.
listen, I need to show your fallibility. You have very few faults, and I need to show them.
I hate you.
So he goes, hey, so Brian, we've been friends 15 years. And Brian's like, yeah, 35.
No, not even.
I was
in the
like,
ballpark.
literally, the internet wasn't even invented when you guys began your friendship.
That's okay. We're Facebook friends for 15 years. All right,
There it is.
All right.
It's official now.
Now, anyways, Brian is a trained counselor, and he is fantastic at what he does. And we've been able to partner together at Camp Arcadia in developing some Bible studies and leading some high school kids and deepening their faith and discipleship with Jesus Christ and who he's created them to be. And I really wanted to have him on because I think because he has a chance to sit there and listen to guys and gals and families process some of the hard stuff of life and how they've gotten into some of the issues that they've gotten themselves into. I would love to hear kind of his take on just restoration, forgiveness, trust, how to renew broken when you're going through a difficult season. What are some things with that? So, Brian, without further ado, why don't you share with us a little bit of your story of how you got into counseling? What is the experience like now, today, versus what it used to be? And what are some of the big things that you're experiencing that maybe you were never prepared for when you're going through college and getting your degree and your master's and all that?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. I kind of stumbled into it. So I went into college not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, met up with the right people. You find a professor that you really connect with. And I always knew I liked helping out people. So it became this natural fit. I kind of got into psychology and then I got into social work. So I'm actually a clinical social worker, meaning that I deal with a lot of mental health. That's the clinical side. I also like to call myself a change agent. And so that's what I like to do is really help people. And what I specialize in and what I do a lot of is really three main areas. First, and the most I do, is anxiety. It's been on the rise for many years. Anger, emotional management is another one, as well as addictions. And so when I work with men, I'm seeing a whole host of issues. And currently, some of the trends that I'm seeing, I wanted to share with both of you guys so that we can kind of digest into that. And so one of the things that I see a lot is what I call emotional repression. And what happens is that leads to things like anxiety, anger, addictions, numbness. And so really trying to figure out, like, all right, what do you do with those emotions? And guys are really good at stuffing it, really good at suppressing it, really good at pushing it down, which works short term, but it doesn't work long term. It eventually catches up with all the pressures and stresses in life. That's a big one. Another one is really just the fear of failure. When you really kind of unpack it, there is a lot of pressure: career, finances, relationships, and that whole idea of like, all right, I have to really succeed. I really have to be driven, which is great, but sometimes there's a cost to that as well.
Right.
Another big one is relationship strains. And so difficulty just kind of expressing their needs to their partner, to others. And then lastly, another big theme that I see is loneliness, and just especially around middle-aged men, just not having those deep connections. And I think that's what a lot of the church can offer, is being able to have authentic, genuine connections within that. Because the bottom line is, like, many men just don't know how to say, I'm not okay.
Yes.
They often show up tired or angry, or they just say, I'm fine. And under that is usually a lot of pain and confusion.
So I love those four things, by the way, and I feel like they're all intertwined in some ways, and it feels like that inability to identify the emotional state that you're going through. Because we had a guy on a few weeks ago, and he talked about a book, and I forgot the name of the book. I ordered it, and I haven't read it yet. And it was
Sam.
Sam
talked about it,
and he really talked about a book that helped him be able to identify, like, oh, that's what I'm feeling, right? Because that's so difficult. So how would you, if a guy's coming in and there's emotional roadblocks or there's emotional hurdles that he's really struggling with, what would be some of the things that you would encourage him to kind of process through, to be able to identify it, and then once identifying it, how to address it in healthy ways?
That's good.
Yeah, great question, Travis. I'm a bit more unconventional in kind of how I approach things. For me, I would capture it in this way, that masculinity isn't the enemy. However, rigidity is. And so what I mean by that, or what I do, is I really, in my approach in counseling, is really offer a reframing of what masculinity can be when it's healthy. And it can be expansive, and it can be not rigid. and it could, you can use male affirming language. So for example, when a guy comes in to see me, I typically don't say, let's talk about your feelings. Because one,
that doesn't work.
Do that. I'm like, it's like speaking French to them. They're like, "What?"
Do you hold his hand while you do it, or no?
Right, get a grunt or something back or whatever. Yeah. So I reframe it this way. I'll say something to the effect of, "What's been weighing on you lately?"
That's good.
Or like, "What's been taking up space in your head?" Or "What's been keeping you up at night?" Like those questions get at the same thing in terms of the feeling piece of it. Or like, instead of saying, I need you to be vulnerable, instead I'll say, like, it takes a lot of guts to talk about that, or what you're doing right now takes real strength. So to me, it's reframing, and it's talking about healthy masculinity includes strength, responsibility, leadership, but there's also room for softness. There's also room to ask for help. There's also room to be seen. So I guess a takeaway for the listeners is, like, men need permission to feel without failing, or to speak without being silenced, or to heal without being ashamed, but you have to find the right context. So I think what I like to do is really reframe what masculinity is.
Brian, I think that is huge and fantastic. And I think that if there's any wives or ladies that are listening right now, I would encourage you to go back to that 2 minutes in the podcast and write down those questions, because I think the way you ask those questions, just in me and myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I could answer those. But if you were to ask me, like, how are you feeling today? I'm like I'm going to punch you. But I know exactly what's been keeping me up, and I know what's been
going
heavy.
on in your head.
I know what's been heavy on my mind and everything. So I think that's a brilliant tool to make that happen. So as you get guys to finally start to open up and share and identify some of those heavinesses, what is the next steps that you would encourage them to engage in a healthy process of healing moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's being open-minded, and what I mean by the open-minded piece is being able to take that feedback. Sometimes it's hard for us to hear feedback to us. Sometimes it's unsolicited, and we don't want to hear that piece. And so, my walk, my journey with Jesus really taught me a few things. And one of those is, the biggest victories in my life haven't been loud ones. They haven't been out in your face. They've been more internal and less reacting. So I kind of teach them, like, you're navigating pressure, you're navigating pain, and how do you get purpose in your life? And so less reacting, more listening, less pride, more presence. Like, that's Jesus. Changing how we show up in quiet ways is what I try to teach them. And so, in my mid-40s, I started struggling with anxiety, which is what I was helping others with for a long time. And anxiety, I call it the doubting disorder, because it gets you to doubt yourself or question. Yes. And so I've been helping people so many times. It's the uncertainty, and uncertainty triggers anxiety. And what do we have? We have a lot of uncertainty these days. And so, within these anxious moments, when I felt like I was like failing as a man or a professional, it's in those places that Jesus didn't leave me or shame me, but instead he steadied me, and he reminded me my identity isn't my performance.
Yes.
And it is, who he says I am. And so identity, I do a lot of identity work.
It's interesting. I went to a concert this last week with a band called Strings and Heart, young, like Gen Z kind of man, love Jesus, but he acknowledged his struggle with anxiety, and man, everybody in the crowd under 20 was like, I get it.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're right. It's the new pandemic. It's that. And so I would say that there is, I would love to touch on that some more for a couple things. I've got two questions for you about that. One of them is, I heard this statistic in the church and speak into this, that literally like 99% of men in the church feel alone. Like they feel like they don't have somebody. Like they're doing life. So I would love to get your thoughts on that statistic, because every time I say it to someone, they're like, "Yep, I agree with that."
Yeah.
I mean, statistics. 87% of statistics are made up on the spot.
I heard it was 75.
But anyways, but I've not seen it proved wrong so far.
Right.
That these guys are like, I feel alone. But then also, what would you Okay, I've got let's just say I'm a person that has like massive anxiety. How would you walk them through having the courage to find an armor bearer or to find someone to talk about with that? Like, what would be your encouragement to those people?
Yeah, anxiety, what it gets you to do is focus on yourself because you have to manage what's going on internally. And so sometimes you can come across as self-centered or aloof or not attuned or not connected because you're just trying to manage your anxiety. And so when you talk about how high of anxiety and how that runs, you're right in terms of the loneliness piece. Robert Putnam wrote a book many, many years ago, Bowling Alone, and he had a term in there called crowded loneliness. And what he's saying is you can be lonely and still have a lot of people around you. Because sometimes we have a narrow view of loneliness, thinking like, okay, there's not people, like I'm living alone or things like that. And so, no, you can have a lot of people, but not having those meaningful connections. And how do you get those connections? Well, shared experiences or common interest and just putting yourself out there. When you have anxiety, it's hard to do that piece of it because you're caught up in trying to manage it within yourself. Now, anxiety is a continuum. Like we all have it. Sometimes people come to me and say, "Hey, I need you to take away my anxiety." Well, that wouldn't be good either, because if you didn't have any low level of anxiety, you wouldn't study for that test or show up on time or all those things. And so you need to have it, but it just want to make sure that it's a manageable piece. So it never goes away, but not to the point where it kind of consumes you and becomes more part of your identity of who you are as a person. So I help people kind of externalize that anxiety, take it outside themselves, more so that's something that visits you than making it that kind of your identity piece.
I love that, and I think one of the secret sauces, and I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts on how it's shifted over time, is that loneliness piece. Is that something that guys have always struggled with, or is that something unique to our culture where we're hyper-connected, but we are surface connected, not deeply connected with anyone? And, I think back to my dad, and, he's part of that old generation where he worked hard, he familyed hard, and he also figured out ways to play hard. He would have the poker nights with his buddies. He'd, during the summertime, he'd do the Thursday night golfing outing with his buddies, and he had those moments to get away and have those shared experiences that you were just talking about. What have you noticed over the length of time that you've been in this, or even further back, and is this new, the loneliness that guys are dealing with, or is this something that's always been there? We just got to figure out how to address that.
It's always been there. It's changed and it looks different, over time. I do believe that it has increased in terms of the anxiety and reaching at younger ages. So I think that's a bit new, so like we've always had that piece, but then people get anxious, which then is connected to this whole loneliness piece, so if you start getting anxious, a lot of times then you don't want to be out there with people, right? So there's a thing called social anxiety where you're like, I'd rather just not be in a group. So then the opportunities become a little less. But, we connect differently. We connect over, online. We connect, through social media. There's different ways that people are connecting, which allows some good connections, but also then I think you can still feel isolated in that way as well. And so you don't have all the face-to-face type connections too.
So I think and I feel like we're going down this rabbit trail, which I love, but man, when my kids were younger, we wanted them to go outside and be a part of community. We're like, just go outside. And then they would go outside. They're like, there's nobody out here. And so what would you say to the parent who's like, my kid has anxiety? What are some good tools that you could do that would help them kind of fight against this feeling of loneliness and anxiety, even from a parental side, to say, here's some tangible things that you can take away to go, I'm going to do this with my kid to at least engage the conversation and fight back against their feeling of loneliness
and anxiety. Yeah, great.
Yeah, one of the ways that you really counter anxiety is exposure to whatever it may be. So if you have a fear or an anxiety about something, but that's tricky, right? So you don't want to have too much of that exposure, because then it can lead to something more extreme or a panic attack. However, real growth happens when you get outside your comfort zone. So you have to just get outside that sweet spot. Now, you can't get up too much because then you're distressed. You're on the other end of the continuum, which is not good too. So you have to find a way to know how you can nudge, push, and kind of get your kids to try things like that. And sometimes that may mean walking along with them or finding ways But sometimes we just accept things of like, all right, they just have this, and they just have this particular condition, and saying, okay, they just have to figure out a way to deal with it. But there's ways to kind of overcome that piece, but it's getting outside your comfort zone, which is exactly what, when you have anxieties, you don't want to do, or if you're feeling isolated or feeling lonely or shy and not an introvert, that's the last thing you want to do. So it's a tricky thing is what it is. But I would help parents help their kids get outside their comfort zone in just little tiny steps. I call them kind of micro steps. What's little things you can do and string those together, which then will produce change.
Love it. As a believer of Christ, we all engage in this thing called the church. Yeah. And the church is a gift that God has given to us to navigate this world as saved brothers of Christ. Yeah. Until He returns, or until we get to experience Him in paradise when we breathe our last breath. What are some things that the church, as you're kind of looking at it, that it does that is not helping? And what are some things that the church can do that would be helpful that maybe you've seen in action, or you're like, man, if the church could just figure this out, it would make a huge difference in the hearts and the lives of fathers, of dads, and of men in general, regardless of age?
Yeah, okay, that's good. Let's solve the world problems right here. So
you're on.
Someone has to. Someone has to. It's your job.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you this. I'll give you kind of some of my secret sauce of what I do. And so I use 3 main kind of life questions is what I do. And they'll be what kind of guides my therapy. And I'll give you the 3. And the first one is I help people kind of figure out, who am I? So it's that search for identity and
Clutch.
What defines me at my core. Am I the sum of my experiences and my choices and my thoughts, or is there more? In terms of Psalm 139, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and so it's that whole idea, like, we have to figure out what is your identity, and trying to understand that it kind of goes beyond your roles or your labels or your expectations or your career. It's all that piece. So that's the first one. The second one is, why am I here? And so just kind of figuring out like that search for purpose, and kind of an understanding like, all right, what's the meaning? What's the meaning here of life? So I was kind of kidding about that, but that's the core of this, of like, but it's also like, why am I here at this time in my life? What's going on, whether it's I'm going through some pain and suffering, or things are going well. And then the whole sense of responsibility, like, what's the reason I'm here? What should I be doing at this time? And then lastly, what I'll say is like, where am I going? Right. And you can answer that at all different levels, in terms of micro to macro, and looking ahead of wondering where your path, or where you're leading to. What's my trajectory in terms of life and beyond this here on earth as well? And so the question kind of points forward in time, in the future, but like beyond time, what's beyond that as well. So you can talk about in their everyday life, but also talking about it in that piece of it. So I think the church really can use those kind of guiding questions of like, all right, who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? To really kind of build that up within our church members.
Dude, that is the definition of our little language of wake up, gear up, and come alive.
Yeah,
wake up to who you are, gear up with like, why am I here? And then come alive and go and do what God's uniquely gifted you, called you to do, and engage. And it may be a small thing, or it may be a huge thing. It may be caring for your family and your kids. It may be planting an orphanage in the Caribbean someplace, But to have that, I love that. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface of these big issues that are all over the place, but very rarely are people really talking about and processing through. So I appreciate your conversation immensely, Brian. If someone wants to get a hold of you, or get a hold of a counselor, let's say, to kind of start to process through this stuff, because my analogy that I love to use is like, Tiger Woods was at the time one of the best golfers that's ever lived, and he still had a coach. And why did he have a coach? Because in the midst of his backswing, he had blind spots. that things were happening. He didn't know why it was happening. He didn't know how to correct it. So you need someone outside of you to look into that and say, hey, have you thought about this? Have you processed that? And I think that's what counselors, when they're good counselors, are so good. So what advice would you give to finding a counselor, to sitting at the feet of someone who can help navigate some of these bigger issues that maybe guys are struggling with? And how can they get a hold of you if that's something that you're open to?
Yeah, it's all about relationships. A good friend and pastor of mine, Bill Yonker, has a quote that says, the best thing in the world is good relationships. And then he goes on to say that the worst thing in the world is bad relationships. So with anything in life, you have to find somebody you feel connected to. And so sometimes it's like finding a used car. You got to kick the tires, so to speak, or metaphorically here. Don't be kicking your counselor. But, it's the idea of like, all right, like, is this a good fit? Like, I'm not for everyone, but you can find a counselor out there because there's so many of us that are out there as well. And so you can get a hold of me, I guess, through you guys. I don't know what the best way is. If they reach out to you, you guys have my number, and then that way we can kind of get them connected locally, or just there's resources out there to make sure there's a good fit. Unless you guys have a better suggestion on that.
No, I think that's
info at knownlegacy.org. At knownlegacy.org. You reach out to us, and we'll put you in touch with Mr. Brian McKenna. Absolutely. What's final question? Thoughts on Christian-based counseling and helping guys navigate these big issues and these questions? Is it important to look for a Christian, or is that, where does that fit in the hierarchy of finding a guy or a gal to help you navigate some of this stuff?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it depends on the person, right? So if that's an important piece of you, then absolutely, on that end of it. So it's not the end all be all, but I think it's going to be a crucial piece as a Christian. Myself, that's who I would look for on that end. And so looking for a Christian counselor helps you kind of incorporate the whole picture, the holistic approach with this as well. And for me, that's what I'm able to do, is to kind of help tell people you are not what you build, break, or battle. You're the one that's loved by Jesus. And so knowing that message again and again, 2 Corinthians 12:9, it says, my grace is sufficient for you and my power is made perfect in weakness. And so understanding that piece and knowing that, that you're loved.
Yeah. What were those 3 B's again? What you battle, what you break.
You are not what you build, break, or battle. Oof. You are the one that Jesus loves.
That's fantastic. That's
good.
The mic drop right there.
That's good. I've enjoyed this conversation, and I do feel like confronting this because, man, there is this feeling of, at least from the older generation, that it was weak,
right,
to talk about this, and there's the new generation that, like, this is who I am.
Right.
So we've got to figure out the pendulum swing in between the two of my identity is my anxiety, like you addressed clearly, like it's not your identity, but so many have, and then the other side that's like, nope, I'm good. It's like Monty Python. Nope, it's just a flesh wound, but I've cut your leg off. No, I'll be fine. And so I think we've got to find that meet point. But I do believe that having a brotherhood of people that are in your corner, that are the right band of brothers, if I could use that kind of language, to be a part of this, to help this healing happen, because guys, you're valuable. Like the guys listening to this, you guys are so valuable, and I'm excited because, man, to get that healing, imagine if we got that healing we needed and shared the hope of Jesus with people, because he is truly the only hope in the world.
Yeah, the impact it would have on your marriage, the impact it would have on being a dad or a granddad, regardless of where you are in that, huge. So, great conversation today, man.
Good stuff, man. Well, Brian, thank you so much, man. As we finish up, we have our Fast 5 questions. There you go. See, he liked the little...
That's our high production value.
I know. Did you like that car? I need you. But, Brian, okay, so question number 1. Who do you most admire and why?
Ooh, a lot of people, but I guess I'm going to go with the quick answer here. I would say Bono. Love U2 music. I'm a big music guy, like his activism and just the music behind it. So that's my quick answer.
Nice.
Fantastic. I don't think we've had a Bono.
We haven't had a Bono answer.
I love that. Fantastic.
That was really good.
I'm Irish too, so you got to go with the Irishman.
Absolutely.
So McKenna, what's your favorite album by them?
Joshua Tree, there's a lot of
course.
good ones, but just in terms of the mid 80s, just kind of that time of my life, college, all the rest of that. So, yeah.
The only one I couldn't stand is the one that iTunes downloaded automatically to my phone.
Yes.
I was like, I'm not listening to
for
this.
The people.
Yes.
That was no good.
It's crazy. Anyways, other than that, great.
Yeah,
good
the B-side, I would put forth the B-side of Joshua Tree is better than the A-side. Even though A-side got all the play, I think the B-side and what they're doing musically in the B-side.
For all of those listening who are under 21, the B-side was the other side of the tape or the other side of the record. So just so you know, there is no more B-sides.
There was a time in our lives where we had to eject the tape and flip it over to hear the rest of the album.
Quite frankly, when they first met, these two, is when the B-sides actually existed. So fun fact
I hate
for
you, Bill. I hate you.
I know, I love you so much. So where would you like to go on a vacation with your family?
So, I want to say Tennessee, and that's a new one for me because several people have told me about Pigeon Forge. And so I've had 2 or 3 people talk about they've gone to the Wayback Hotel. It's this retro hotel where they have Elvis pool parties. Now, I'm not even a big Elvis guy. My dad loved Elvis. But
That
just
sounds
the whole idea
awesome.
of having an Elvis pool party in Dollywood and all the rest of it, I got to go with Tennessee, Pigeon Forge.
That sounds like a fantastic road trip for Known Legacy.
That sounds awesome. We need to do that.
Absolutely, we need to do that.
Thank you very much for letting us know about that.
That was a horrible impersonation.
I know it was. Okay.
Rumor has it he's still alive, by the way. I don't know.
He is.
He's a
The
pastor
aliens took him or
someplace.
something.
Yeah.
I know that. It's okay. That's a whole nother podcast, Travis.
Sorry.
Number 3, what are you currently reading? The Bible or another book?
Yeah, of course, the Bible in terms of devotions. On top of that, I read a lot related to my field, and a good one that came out this past year is the book called Talk. And it's by a Harvard professor named Allison Wood Brooks. Okay. And she teaches a class on this. It's one of the most popular classes at Harvard in the communications department or MBA maybe. And so it's really just about the science of conversation, the art of being ourselves, and so very relevant. It's great. Recommend Talk.
Talk. Okay.
I like that. It's an easy one to remember.
Yes, it is. Very good. Number 4, what's a goal you have for this year?
Well, remember I said I was unconventional, so my goal is to be less driven.
Oh.
Yeah, like to be more mid is what it is, and actually extend grace more often. So I am just kind of stepping back. I moved to northern Michigan and just kind of a reset and, been driven a lot throughout my life, and I just want to be less driven. Doesn't mean I don't want to, be driven at all, but just less driven. Dial it back a little bit. Go from the amps, at 11 to maybe, 9.
Even though it goes to 11.
It goes to, well, okay, we won't go into Spinal Tap.
Listen, we are a movie quote. We should just do one with just full movie quotes. Some point.
I like it.
I know.
I like it.
We can make it happen. Okay. Number 5, what's the most impactful piece of advice you've ever been given?
Give thanks. Be grateful. Oh. That's the most impactful. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Psalm 118.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Awesome. Dude, this has been a good conversation. Thank you so much, Brian, for being on. I know you had to squeeze us in.
Thank you, brother.
Actually, this was just therapy for me and Travis, really is what it was. So I appreciate you taking the hour for free and working with us. We need a lot of help.
This is how we do it, remember?
This is how we do it.
Got to have to define masculinity differently. We do therapy on the air with you, too.
Yes.
I love it.
I love it, man. It's so good to have you on.
Man, so good, you guys. Thank you so much for listening once again to Known Legacy Podcast. We love that you're checking us out. Again, our goal is that you would wake up, gear up, and come alive, that you know who you are in Christ, that you'd see that He has a reason that you're here right now, and there's a future that is still there for you. And
if this has been beneficial to you, do us a favor. You're like, how can you? A lot of people ask, how can they support us?
Yeah.
One of the things you can do is you can follow us on YouTube and share it with at least one friend. That's our goal, because we know that it's making a difference, and we want you to help be an agent of change, just like Brian said in the very beginning. For others. So thanks for listening, guys. Have a great week.
God bless.
Thanks for listening to the Known Legacy Podcast. We'd love to hear from you, so email us your questions or comments to info@knownlegacy.org.